single dad took a homeless woman to his ex's wedding, and she stole the show hook the invitation said +1. It didn't say anything about dignity. So when 34-year-old, single father Ethan Cole walked through the grand double doors of the Whitmore Ballroom, one of the most expensive wedding venues in the city, he had a woman on his arm. But she wasn't a colleague. She wasn't a date he'd found on an app. She was Maya, the woman he'd found sleeping under the Morrison Street Bridge 3 weeks ago, wrapped in a cardboard box with a rosary clutched in her hands. And the moment the crowd saw her, her worn, torn clothes, her tangled hair, her bare feet and borrowed shoes 2 sizes too big, the entire room went completely silent. Ethan hadn't wanted to go to the wedding. His ex-fiancée Sophia was marrying Derek, a hedge fund manager with a perfect jaw and a subscription to a lifestyle Ethan would never afford. They'd been together for 4 years. He'd proposed on a Tuesday evening with a ring he'd saved 11 months for. She'd said yes. Then 6 months later, she'd said something else. "Ethan, you're wonderful, but I need someone who's going somewhere." He was a middle school art teacher raising a 7-year-old daughter named Lily alone. He wasn't going anywhere fancy. He was going to school plays and Saturday morning pancakes in the park with grass stains on his knees. Sophia's words had hollowed him out, but he survived. Lily made sure of it. The invitation had arrived without explanation, perhaps guilt, perhaps cruelty, perhaps some strange form of closure Sophia needed. His mother told him not to go. His best friend told him to go and look incredible. His daughter told him with all the authority of a 7-year-old, "Daddy, just be yourself. You're the best." He'd almost thrown the card away. Then came the Tuesday he met Maya. It was raining, the kind that soaks through a coat in seconds. Ethan was walking home after a late parent-teacher meeting, his collar up, his shoes already ruined. He almost didn't see her. She was tucked against the concrete pillar beneath the bridge, a woman in her early 30s maybe, curled tight with her knees to her chest, her long brown hair plastered to her face. A cardboard sign beside her read, "Anything helps." God bless. Most people walked past. Ethan stopped. He crouched down. "Are you okay?" She looked up. Her eyes were green, sharp and clear, the kind of eyes that had once known something better. She didn't say anything at first, then, "I'm fine." She was not fine. He bought her hot soup from the diner around the corner, then a second bowl, then coffee. They sat on the curb in the rain and she told him, slowly in pieces, that her name was Maya, that she'd been an elementary school teacher, that she'd lost her apartment after a series of events she described as a perfect storm of bad luck and worse timing, that she'd been on the street for almost 4 months. She wasn't broken. That was the thing that struck Ethan most. She was tired, yes. Humiliated, yes. But underneath it all, there was something whole about her, something the street hadn't managed to take. He gave her his number, told her to call if she needed anything. She called 3 days later, just to say thank you. He called back, just to check in. After 2 weeks, they were talking every evening, about teaching, about loneliness, about the strange way the world worked. He helped her connect with a women's shelter. He brought her books. She sent him voice messages of her reading to Lily over the phone, and Lily laughed so hard she fell off the couch. Neither of them called it friendship out loud. But that's what it was, fierce and fast and real. The night before the wedding, Ethan sat at his kitchen table staring at the envelope. He thought about going alone and feeling small. He thought about not going and wondering what that said about him. He thought about Sophia's face when she'd handed back the ring. Practiced, almost rehearsed. Then he thought about Maya. He picked up his phone. "I know this is strange," he said when she answered, "but I have a wedding tomorrow, and I don't want to go alone. And I think I'd rather go with someone real than someone impressive." A long pause. "Ethan," she said quietly, "I don't have anything to wear." "I know," he said. "Come anyway." She laughed, surprised, disbelieving. "In what I have on?" "If you want, or we can stop at the thrift store in the morning, whatever makes you comfortable. But I want you there. You make me feel like myself." Another pause, softer this time. "Okay," she said. "Okay, I'll come." They met at the thrift store at 9. Maya found a green wrap dress with a small tear at the hem, nothing a safety pin couldn't handle. Ethan found a tie that matched. Lily, who had come along for the adventure, declared them the most beautiful people she'd ever seen, and requested a photo on Ethan's phone. Maya's hair was still tangled from weeks without proper care. She tried to smooth it with her fingers, frustrated. "Leave it," Ethan said simply. "It's yours." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she let it go. The ballroom was extraordinary. Crystal chandeliers, white flower arrangements taller than Ethan, guests in gowns that cost more than his monthly salary. They walked in together. The whispers started immediately. He felt them like a current in the room, saw eyes flick from Maya's torn sleeve to her borrowed shoes to her unpolished confidence. He saw a woman in pearls lean to her neighbor. He saw Derek's groomsman smirk. He kept walking. Sophia saw them from across the room. For just a moment, just one flicker, something passed across her face, not anger, not triumph, something closer to recognition. Then the ceremony began. Maya sat beside Ethan in the third row. She didn't look out of place. She looked present, fully, completely there, in a way that most of the room, despite their expensive clothes and rehearsed smiles, was not. When the vows were read, Ethan noticed her eyes were wet. Not from sadness, from something else, something like hope. "Do you believe in all that?" he whispered. "I believe in the trying," she whispered back. At the reception, a young girl, maybe 5 years old, a flower girl, tripped near the buffet table and sent a tray crashing to the floor. The child burst into tears immediately, humiliated, inconsolable. Before anyone else moved, Maya was on the floor beside her. She didn't make a fuss. She didn't call for attention. She simply sat cross-legged on the marble floor in her thrift store dress, gathered the little girl close, and began to sing, softly, just loud enough for the child to hear. A lullaby that seemed to belong to another time. The room noticed. One by one, conversations stopped. Heads turned. The catering staff paused. Sophia, standing with her new husband across the room, went completely still. The little girl's crying slowed, then stopped. Then, a smile, small and uncertain, like the first sun after rain. Maya helped her up, fixed her flower crown, whispered something in her ear that made the child giggle. Then Maya stood, smoothed her dress, and returned to Ethan's side as if nothing had happened. The applause started slowly, and then it filled the room. People weren't clapping for the performance. There had been no performance. They were clapping because they'd seen something they rarely got to see in rooms like this. Someone who simply, without hesitation, chose kindness. Ethan looked at Maya. She wasn't looking at the crowd. She was looking at the little girl, who was now spinning happily near the dessert table. "You used to do that," he said. "Teach little kids." "Every day," she said quietly. "It's the only thing I've ever been sure of." He took her hand, not romantically, the way you hold the hand of someone you recognize. "You're going to do it again," he said. She didn't answer, but she didn't let go. Sophia found Ethan near the exit at the end of the evening. She looked at him for a long moment before she spoke. "She's remarkable," Sophia said finally. "Yes," said Ethan, "she is." There was nothing more to say. He walked out with Maya into the cool night air, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel small. He felt like a man who had made exactly the right choice, not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, but simply because he'd listened to the part of himself that still believed people were worth showing up for. Maya started volunteering at an after-school program the following week. By spring, she had her own classroom again. Lily still asks her to read bedtime stories over the phone sometimes. She always says yes,